So when I came to Stanford, I was excited and ready to revel in the diversity. I knew I was going to come and meet people from different walks of life with different interests, but all bound by a same passion and desire and curiosity. I was really excited, and when I got here to Roble on the first day, I felt it immediately. But as I started to explore campus, I noticed one small aspect of this diversity wasn't really present, at least not at first glance, and that was a diversity of philosophical and political ideas. What I mean by that is I felt like people, even if they did have different philosophical or political ideas, weren't comfortable discussing and challenging their own values and virtues, which in turn inform your political beliefs. And I thought this was troublesome for a couple reasons. Now, me personally, as many of you in this house might know, would describe my worldview as somewhat conservative, although I would posit in the truest sense it is very liberal. And this worldview didn't just snap into my head in one instant. It was the product of growing up as the son of two parents who both grew up in authoritarian states. It was the product of a very strong admiration for rule of law, and that was something that I really had present as a first-generation American citizen. And so this really influenced my worldview, but my worldview was constantly being challenged. And since arriving here, I felt like my worldview was challenged as well. I looked inside, I was introspective, and that in turn allowed me to grow and better figure out who I am and what I believe. But I'm afraid that often a lot of people don't have the initiative or the desire to put themselves out there and have these hard conversations. And I think while this exists on campus, it's also indicative of a wider problem across our nation. And so this concept of political discourse, of having challenging ideas and discussions, is very important. And I think it's very important because it's also fundamentally a part of our social fabric. As a first-generation American, I believe that we have a civil responsibility for civil service, for public policy, for serving in the armed forces. However you want to contribute, I feel like it's a fundamentally American notion that we contribute for the good of the nation and the good of our community. And this goes all the way back to John Winthrop and this concept of a shining city on a hill. On campus, though, I feel like unfortunately we've gotten to a place where it can sometimes be hard to get there. And the reason I personally believe it is we forget that everyone, on balance, the far majority of people have good intentions. So what does that mean? It means that the majority orthodoxy has their position, but it isn't often challenged because oftentimes it's misconstrued that you have bad intentions. So for example, if someone were to come and say, well actually I think that Stanford suing the county on the basis of whether or not it's responsible to build affordable housing makes sense, people immediately say, well you clearly don't care about workers' rights and you clearly don't understand that people can't live. But that person very likely wants to resolve the issue. They just believe that it should be done on the zoning side, or that construction incentives need to change. And oftentimes these issues are some of the most pertinent issues to our community. Consider, for example, sexual assault, which is an incredibly difficult, divisive, and personal issue to talk about. And recently, Betsy DeVos, your education secretary, was talking about changing the burden of proof for Title IX. This is a very important topic that will affect the entire campus. But often I got the impression that if people believed that a higher burden of proof was actually justified, that people would say, well, look, you clearly don't care about survivors, or you don't understand the pain and anguish. And I think that that is fundamentally unproductive for our discourse, because if we both understand that both people in that conversation want to see a world with zero sexual assault, we can see that we're simply looking at different paths to get to the same place. And that's not to say that you shouldn't challenge a person who says something that disagrees with you, but you should do it in a respectful way where you're challenging the principles and ideas and not the person. And this really helps you, and has helped me, dramatically expand my beliefs and my worldview. I think it's important to think, for example, that Betsy DeVos whatever you might think of her policy, has good intentions, the same way that myself, as a conservative, I don't think Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez wants to destroy our country. I just simply have a policy disagreement. And I think one of the interesting things is a lot of the really productive conversations that I've had have happened here at Roble. And one of the reasons I think this is the case is because we all live together. And this status, this existence of cohabitation actually makes you realize you're living with people, right? You're brushing your teeth next to them and you see them at the dining hall, and it changes your perspective. But I think once we abstract to the larger community, sometimes it can be hard to maintain those ideas. And so the next time that you're with someone and they propose a different view on many of the really pressing issues that we have on campus or nationally, just remember they're coming from a good place. That our civil society is predicated on this notion of service and contributing. And I think that that is fundamentally what shapes our community and our nation. For those reasons, I'm really grateful for the community we've had here. And if you ever want to talk, I'll see you around.